stroll down memory lane for me. I bought this marker brand new, I think back 2005. Just moved down to California. A&S, went down there looking at paintball markers. And I wanted something better than the spider that I had. Autococker SR. This was WGP's answer to the space guns. Great concept, but ultimately flawed, failed attempt on many levels, and we'll go over a bunch of reasons why. But man, design problems out of the box, quality problems out of the box, and I think this was pretty much a last generation of marker that you would get brand new out of the box and that thing wouldn't work, or barely work, and you have to reset the board settings, and just disastrous. So let's get into it. Two-piece barrel. We got a nice case for it, high density foam, good spare parts kit, and damn, you're gonna need them on this thing. I got a clapper solenoid here too that I had to replace. Let's get our case out of the way. Let's assemble our two-piece barrel. We've got our wonderful autococker here. So some highlights about this guy right off the bat. This thing was touted as a current modern design autococker with a Tadao board, which was a big deal back in the day. This is back when Tadao and Virtue were selling boards like crazy and all the markers as upgrades, and you could buy this guy in a pretty good price and get a Tadao OLED board on there, which was unheard of for that price. The boards alone back then were $150, and I think I probably paid $250 for this thing. I think they'd already been kind of sold out at that point, or I think they went under and they discontinued them. And I think he might have bought up the property rights there on that, if I remember correctly, but my memory's fuzzy at the time. Fun fact, I actually bought this from Rory at A&S back when he was still working at the counter. A&S was the closest paintball store to me, when I lived in Thousand Oaks. And then, I think the quality problems are so bad, A&S actually had to program the boards before they sold them because they were tired of the markers coming back with problems, because holy shit, man. If you didn't have a force-fed hopper, you were going to blend if your settings weren't right. You're talking about ball-in-place delay, a bunch of stuff you normally don't have to worry about. These days, if you're going to mess with anything, it's always a dwell people screw with. But, man, yeah, settings and settings and settings. And if you didn't have the right settings in there and your OLED died, which nobody knew about at the time, as OLED started failing a couple years down the road. Mine actually outlasted a lot of them. I used this marker shoot for probably 2-3 years exclusively, despite all the problems it had, and loved every minute of it. This thing frickin' rips. Went out and shot in the backyard earlier today, and almost fall in love with it all over again until you start looking at it and realizing all the problems you had with it over the years. So what was cool back then, had a on-off, but it didn't really function. You try to unscrew it here, and it never vented. The pen was too long in there, and it always keep everything pressurized. So, bad, poor quality manufacturing, and the ASA right away, shit. Not rebuildable, user-end rebuildable regulator. Supposedly, if you have the right tools, you can do it. I don't think it's a big deal. It's got 2 QEVs on it for the RAM. It's actually got I think it's a Dye DM9 solenoid that controls the RAM. This thing's incredibly fast. Pretty efficient too, man. I tell you, I had so much paint through this thing, and I never had to worry about air efficiency on it. It wasn't until I got a G4 that I realized air efficiency actually came into play, and you really had to watch your air on some of the markers, man. Stupid, dangerous power. Big problem too on these guys, the on-off switch. It would activate when you would stick it in the case. It would hit the high density foam in the cutout, and it would turn on. It's very sensitive, extremely sensitive, and would always turn on the case, drain your battery down. We'll go ahead and turn it off. But yeah, autococker enthusiasts hated this thing. It was a huge departure for the autococker platform. Almost nothing on it standard. You can switch out an E-blade frame if your OLED went dead. That's a current fix for it right now. But the big reason I'm doing the video is because there's been a lot of talk about people coming up with circuit boards specifically for the SR recently. And it'd be nice to see that happen, but just if you do have one, if it works, great. If it doesn't work, get an E2 on there or wait for somebody to come up with a frame if it ever happens. I've heard a lot of rumors about it over the years, and it never materialized. But great, you know, mid-block platform, except nothing on it standard with the regular autocockers. You know, you can't even put a regular pump kit on here without modifying. It's not threaded, you know, for a banjo like the old ones were. And the hole is offset too. So if you go pull your front pneumatics off, you have a problem where it's off-centered, and if you try to just tap it, you have extremely thin wall here on the side. And so potentially you could break it if you were to, you know, tweak on it too much. Some guys will center it. They will drill it and center it right off, you know, and recenter the hole. Because you're going larger, you can do that. And then you can run a pump kit on there, and you'll actually be in good shape there. So you can pump these, takes a little bit of effort, but if you have a couple, you know, couple bucks you want to spend on it, you can definitely get it done. So that being said, you know, pneumatics on there. This marker is just clad in plastic. This is plastic. This is plastic, and under those grips, under the grip right here, covering the electronics, is also plastic. Nobody likes plastic. It doesn't hold up over time. I'm shocked these things are still intact, and you know, the solenoid cover and all that stuff still intact. It's held on by a bunch of screws. But yeah, overall, you know, it's a fun marker to shoot. You can carry Allen wrenches with you to, you know, keep the LPR. The LPR kept backing out, and so you get midway down the game, and it stopped cycling fully. So you got to tweak it in. So this was my introduction to autocockers back in the day. You know, I always wanted one as a kid growing up, and so the first time I go to buy a marker that's not a spider, I end up with this piece of crap. You know, it worked for a good couple years, but man, you know, looking back, it's like, shit, a little research would have saved me some bucks back in the day. But I bought this guy, realized I needed a better hopper, ended up buying a Prophecy V1, and I bought a carbon fiber tank, and I was pretty much set with gear, and this thing just freaking ripped, man. As you guys saw in the video there, trigger actually works pretty good, and my gun's on right now. But you can turn the eyes off. They're off right now, and you can just... And there was an unlimited mode on there. This thing freaking, it hustles, man. It moves. Mid-block 2 QEVs. There's not a lot of mass on here moving the bolt. There's no back block to deal with. I think it's actually faster than a carnivore. You guys really want to piss a carnivore owner off if they ask you how your SR shoots. You know, tell them it shoots just like a carnivore, but better. That'll really torque them off. Shoots faster, less kick. You know, there's no back block flopping around there, just you know, your mid block here. You actually do have a ram going back here, and you got a sled, but it's all covered up by the plastic. We got our bolt here. We can pull our bolt out. Let's go ahead and take a peek under the plastic. Let's see. This nice tight marker. You could with a 90° or 86 frame, you could play really tight with it. No back block slapping you in the face, and you know, it feels comfortable in the hands. Let's pull it off. I get my shitty battery in here for testing, but you could operate them, toggle through the menu right here. OLED board. So this was some of the example of the plastic. I'm telling you, it was dying here just throughout time. So man, if somebody can come up with a new OLED board or a new complete circuit board, I'll pay money for that. A lot of these screws are the same size, which is pretty slick. Now, I will tell you, these things are old. And I hope I don't break them, because good luck finding a replacement. I actually had a coworker who bought one the same time I did. I think his shit before mine, and he actually had a QEV go bad on his, and you got a Phillips screw right here. So I got to go track down a Phillips screw, guys. Let me disconnect the battery before I do anything else dumb here. The screws are pretty much the same size Allen, but different locations. So this one goes for the front, and this deeper one goes for the solenoid cover right here. But I need to get a Phillips, and I'll be right back. So yeah, I might try to take this thing out this weekend, go play with it, dust it off. The last time I used it, I made the mistake of trying to dump some extremely brittle paint through it, and it was just barrel breaking like crazy, man. Like a freaking flamethrower. Took my Automag RT out that same weekend. Just trying to use some little legacy markers. But with that, you get all the host of problems you had back in the day. Oh, come on. So when you see a mess of wires, this helps you appreciate modern designs. So with a little bit of poking, I was able to get the side cover off here. It's located up in here below the feed neck, but the feed neck's pain in the butt to get off on this. So you can actually see where I did my splice connection here for the solenoid. I did have to replace it, and I did have to replace the pancake solenoid too. Yeah, you can see, man, like I said, the last time I used extremely brittle paint, and that paint just went everywhere. So I got to give this guy a deep clean, but you can see the sled here. You can see the ram. And, yeah, I mean, this was a lot of fun back in the day, cleaning it, going through everything. And, yeah, I can't wait to use it this weekend. But, man, never pull the eyes out. You can never get anything to stick here again. I use compressed air when I clean the eyes. I just go down here with a can of compressed air and spray down there and get the eyes clean, go back together. But this guy had a lot of broken paint. A lot of broken paint. So it had a proprietary board. Only fits the SR just because of the grip is different than the standard WGP ones. So unfortunately, just you can't get a drop-in one. And this was a not very common OLED screen on these Dell boards. The other ones are a little bit more common, and they came up with some LED replacements, and a couple of guys actually had some new screens that could just go ahead and solder in for you and get you down the road, but not on this one. Unfortunately, it's one of these markers you just want to avoid unless you want a headache. But if you don't mind a project, it's an interesting body, but keep in mind there's no plastic, and you do have detents in here that without the plastic on there, they're not going to be held in. So we've got our little rubber detents. There's two of them. They work well. Even electric with a rotor on there going full tilt, man, this thing will hold up for a good long bit. But yeah, I don't recommend them for somebody not for the faint of heart. It's a fun gun if you get up and running, and if somebody can get these boards out, great, it'll be good. But you can't get a lot of the parts anymore. You can't get some of the gaskets and O-rings. Some of them are some odd sizes in there. Yeah, and solenoid, you can get the solenoids. They're for same ones like a DM8, DM7, something like that, DM9. And this one, I actually replaced it. This one had died, wasn't cycling anymore. And then, so I replaced it, and then I think like a month later the pancake noid went out, and that made me just put this guy aside, and it sat and sat and sat. Because I still use it occasionally when I had my my Dangerous Power G4. But yeah, man, fun little piece of history back in the day. Hope you guys enjoyed the video.